that. And it's like, that's what it's supposed to do. It's unexpected kindness.
I've had a guy did that one time. I was at lunch and he ordered, and then he was like, and whatever this young lady is having, and he just bought it. I was like, well, what? I was like, oh,
and
here's
what happens.
He was all like, no, and enjoy your lunch. And he didn't want my number or anything like that. He was just like, have a nice day, enjoy your lunch. And I was like, that is so nice. And I was happy for the rest of the day.
There you go. And what's really interesting is that, just read that. I'm sorry, it made me laugh. What's really interesting is that, if you get caught in one of those moments, participate in it. Because you got some people be like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And don't be that person who goes above and beyond and like orders some more than what you're supposed to.
Right.
Don't take advantage of the moment is what I'm saying.
Right.
So just because someone said they're going to pay for you, don't be like, well, instead of me having that number, I was going from the dollar menu. Instead, give me that number 6. Look, if you weren't...
Still get your dollar menu.
Still go to the dollar menu.
Items. Still get your...
Right.
Don't amp it up to a number 6.
Right, because you weren't doing number 6 on your dime. So just be real about it and don't, misuse people, because that is so not cool at all when people do stuff like that.
That's funny.
That's so funny. So here's another kind of interesting thing. So there is a dad and a daughter who actually share the same birthday. He was turning 32 and she was turning 7.
Uh-huh.
And they decided that they were going to just do random acts of kindness, 39 in total.
Oh, because their ages combined
to kind of celebrate.
That's a lot of niceness.
Exactly, to celebrate their birthdays. So they did everything from like buying people a cup of coffee to cleaning someone's yard to they actually went and cut a neighbor's grass who was elderly. Just all these random to make 39 acts of kindness, and that's how they want to celebrate their birthday.
I was like, look, I got 7 on it. You do the other 32. I got to do 39. I'm 7. I'm 7. I got to do 39 things.
It's kind of like Haley's Harvest, which we talked about last week. Mm-hmm. The girl who saw someone was homeless and all of a sudden just began doing all this stuff. By the way, when I donated to Haley has raised quite a bit of dough.
Has she?
She's had 2 different fundraising on GoFundMe. Mm-hmm. One she raised like $39,000.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this new one she had raised like close to $900.
Okay.
So I thought that was pretty cool. But she was saying her goal was to hit 250 pounds of food. So her little endeavor is going really good. And what's funny is I made a comment I posted on Facebook. And I tagged her mother, and her mother was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for covering Haley's story and sharing that with people."
So nice.
They live in the state of Washington. She goes just to share her story. Hopefully the other kids will be encouraged to do the same thing.
Sure.
So she actually sent me an inbox. Which I thought was
really?
Cool.
That's really nice.
That was really cool. She's like, "That was so unexpected." I'm like, "Oh, that's the good part of it."
Right.
So we want to share what you're doing to encourage other people to get on and support people.
That's
even
the
if
point.
it's $5. GoFundMe has no amount to it.
They don't.
It could be $5.
And you can do it. You can be anonymous too if you don't want to put.
You don't have to put your name out there.
No.
You don't have to post it to Facebook.
Right.
You don't have to do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's for a good cause.
Another
don't forget about Haley.
Yeah, that was good to hear. It was really cool when her mom got back to me.
Good.
Another random act of kindness. An employee at a Qdoba in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those Mexican style
Yes,
restaurants.
yes. I like it too.
Actually, it is, and there's actually not a lot of them around.
They're not in. They have this cheese sauce, the nacho sauce, that is just impeccable. I love them for that. But go ahead with Qdoba.
So they, at this particular one in Louisville, not Louisville, Louisville. I think that's funny. Because what's funny is people say Louisville, but you don't say Louisville Slugger. It's a Louisville Slugger.
It is a Louisville Slugger.
But people from there say Louisville. But
I don't.
I don't either. I say Louisville.
Louisville.
I know, but I think that's funny. That's why I said it 2 ways. But so there was an employee at this Qdoba in Louisville, Kentucky, that would have this customer that would come in all the time that was disabled for lunch and dinner. Apparently that's somebody who really likes Qdoba coming in that much. And she would always chat with the customer, make sure her order was prepared just right. And sometimes, she'd make sure that the meals would be delivered to her because she was like wheelchair bound and had a lot of struggles to it. And just people were like, she's been doing this like just nonstop with this customer because she felt so bad for the fact that he was disabled.
Oh.
So when he didn't show up, he actually had built a rapport with the customer.
Okay.
And decided when they didn't show up a couple times, she thought it was kind of odd because they had exchanged information and called and said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well today. I can't get out." Actually brought the customer food.
Wow.
Which in today's, that's
yes,
really nice, but also risky.
Yeah.
You don't know who lived with that person.
Right.
But I thought that was really kind to be so mindful of someone that you provide service to so frequently. And just when they're not there, people, believe it or not, people notice that. When you frequent a place and you don't show up and you do, they're like, "Hey, where you been?"
Yes.
Because they notice you haven't been there in a while,
yes.
which I guess could be good or bad, depending on where you're going.
Right.
Like if you're always shopping in like Macy's or something, that might not be good.
That's awesome.
But so that was like a really cool thing that they noticed they were missing and took stuff to their home because they ate there so frequently.
Wow. How nice. I got one. You're going to love this. I didn't tell you. This is my random act of kindness for you. Here's the thing. This past Wednesday, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson
Dwayne
shared on Instagram. It was this 2-year-old girl, and she was visiting the set of an upcoming movie he has coming out called Central Intelligence. And the little girl, when it was an airplane, and she was pulling on the string because she wanted to pull it. And The Rock got behind her, and he was making her think she was pulling the airplane all herself. So he was pulling the airplane for her, but she thought she was doing it because she was pulling the string. So he was behind her pushing it. And that made her very, very happy. Here's a picture of it. Here's this.
Anybody who knows me.
And he was like, "Oh gosh, you're pulling the airplane." And she was like, "Oh, you're so strong." He is. I heard he's one of the nicest celebrities out there. So.
And if he's not, I'm duped. And if I ever find out differently, I'm actually gonna be heartbroken. Like, you know how people have celebrities that they really like, and like they're like, "Oh, I love so." Okay, that's like my celebrity crush.
That is.
If I walked into him in person, I would be like a loss for words, acting stupid. I'm like, "Oh my God, Dwayne," and you laugh because like
I do.
I'm gonna tell you how I make fun of it now. I'm in a store. It was a magazine. Actually, it was the Vanity Fair that had Caitlyn Jenner on the front, and it was an ad for his new show called Baller. It actually came on yesterday.
I didn't see it.
You think you didn't see it, but I did.
You watched it?
I know I DVR'd it. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay.
But it was funny. It was an ad for a Baller in there, and so I took a picture and I said, "Look who's here, Dwayne." And you.
I was like, "Dwayne, what?" I was like, she talks about like she knows him. She's like, "I went to the movies with Dwayne." I was like, "Huh? Who's Dwayne?" I was like, "You got a new boyfriend?" She was like, "No, The Rock." I'm like, "Oh my God, girl."
Oh, just love you, Dwayne Johnson. Anyways, okay, a final random act of kindness. There was this is another interesting. A disabled person out in the state of Washington was homebound and having some issues and couldn't get out, and actually called 911 and said, "I'm disabled. I can't get out of my house. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in a couple days. Can somebody please come help me?" And they actually did a wellness check, but they also took the person food that made the call. They went in and made sure they were okay, and there was nothing, just wrong. They just like, "I ran out of food and I haven't been able to get to the grocery store." So not only did they bring them something to eat, they also took them out, took them grocery shopping, and then went as far as to tie them to some services, social services, to help them so they would get in that position anymore.
How nice.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes people just need that gentle,
that little
boost. Because sometimes someone would have made that call, and we live in a world where people wouldn't even take that serious.
Exactly.
Like, really?
Right.
You ain't in a couple days?
Exactly. Right.
Is this a prank? Because unfortunately, we live in a world where people do stuff like
that. People play too much.
They play too much. It's not funny. So it's often it's the small things. Like for me, I'll open, like, if someone's, like, carrying a baby in a bag, I will always hold the door open.
Always.
Now, that may seem like, oh, that's silly. But no, believe it or not, you could just open the door and keep walking like a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. It's something as simple as, you know what, say traffic is busy and you see someone trying to turn onto the road.
Just let them.
Just let them in. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just those small, simple things. And you'll often find a person will wave and be like, oh, thank you. Because, like, they're trying to get in traffic. People don't understand how small things really change people's lives. A person could be having a bad day, and you could do one thing. Now, I'll tell you, I had one, I now see it as a random act of kindness, but it kind of freaked me out. I was in Starbucks, and I was sitting there working on my laptop, and this guy comes in, and he gets a cup of coffee, sits down, and he, like, stared a hole through me. And I was like, okay, I hope you know me. Because every time I looked up, he kept looking at me, and it kind of weirded me out. But it was in Starbucks. I was like, okay, I work in mental health, like maybe, he's just not all there today. So I get up, I pack my bag up, and I leave. And as I'm like, I get to my car, I turn around, and here he is coming across the parking lot. Okay, now I'm feeling extra freaked out, and I'm like, I don't have mace. So I'm like, okay, but this is a public place. So there's people getting in and out their cars. And he walks up to me, he goes, okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to freak you out. He goes, but I think you are so beautiful.
That is so nice.
And he said that and then just walked off.
Oh, I see, that is so nice.
Well, I don't know how to feel about it at the moment because I was nervous. I was like, let me get back to Middle Earth because this just freaked me out. And it took a while, and I thought about it after. I'm like, that was really nice. But it still freaked me out.
Yeah.
I would have preferred if he would have just walked up to me and said that in Starbucks. And not follow me out to my car.
Maybe he was like, I got to catch her. Let me just
No, he
could
have left. I've been okay.
I know that, but you never would have heard. You never would have heard that.
And I've been okay.
Like, let me catch you.
It just kind of weirded me out. But I'm just saying, sometimes people will say small things, and someone's having a bad day.
You know what I do? Like sometimes somebody will just send me a text, and they're like, I didn't want anything. I was just thinking about you, and I always thank people for that because I'm like, you don't have to do that. The fact that I crossed your mind and. I think about people sometimes, and I don't bother to. But I just think about people, and But to let me know that you thought about me today, and to tell me that, I'm always very appreciative for anybody that does that because you don't have to.
And sometimes,
I love that.
It's those little things that a person can be having just an off-center day, and they get something from someone, like, oh, thank you. Just a small compliment. If we just did those small things in this world, it probably would just be a better place.
It would be.
So just, that moment where you have an opportunity to do something really simple.
Do it.
Which, by the way, doesn't cost you a dime.
Do it.
Take advantage of the moment and just do it. And you might be surprised how a person responds like, oh my God, thank you.
And actually, when you can make a person feel like that, it does make you feel good. It's a win-win, people.
It is.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win, and you can't do better than that. So that wraps up our random acts of kindness. I would encourage people to get involved in this movement, because we live in a world where we need more random acts of kindness to go on. And they're actually, the random act of kindness day is like in November or something.
Is it really?
But my thing is this. Why should it be one day?
It should be every day.
We need to do more of this, because we're in a world where things are all twisted up.
Yes. And it's we can do a lot of complaining, but let's try to off-center that and do some good stuff.
Good stuff. So, all right, so there's some people doing some good stuff, and we shared it with them, and that's positive. Okay, let's get into a healthy you.
All right.
I try to feature those stories where, we talked about this last week we talked about the FDA pulling off the trans fats off the market within 3 years.
You had no food left.
Right, because it preserves, it's the puddings, it's the soups.
Right.
It's and all this kind of stuff that have a shelf life. So
you gotta eat fast.
Look, here's what's going to happen. It's just the cost of stuff is going to go up.
Right.
Or they'll find something else toxic to put in there. Because it was tied to a lot of coronary issues. So, what I had said was distressing a lot of times when you have situations like this is, if you're trying to be healthy, it's such a setback when you hear this stuff like, don't use this. You're like, well, we've been using this all this time, so what now? Well, there was this great article in Yahoo Health that talks about, we hear a lot about, clean eating or, being green and things like that, where there's this great article which says, which matters more, being green or being clean? And it really broke down some key things that people have questions about, especially in regards to killing germs and limiting exposure to a lot of toxic things in your home. Okay. So in this article with Yahoo Health, they spoke with Bruce Bloomberg, who's a biologist at the University of California at Irvine, and he's one of the groups of environmental health and scientists that develops a lot of green chemical things that people put into products. Okay. So what was interesting is you would think he would push all the green things that he's promoting or creating, and he didn't. He actually went to a lot of things that people use and kind of broke it down for you in a way that makes sense. He's like, it really depends on, one of the key things that he said is that it really depends on what you're trying to do in your household. He's like, obviously the biggest fear is bacteria, especially if kids, like germs are right. Germs are everywhere though.
They are.
He said, so it depends on what level of, sterilization that you're seeking in your household to determine if being green opposed to picking something that's really a true cleaner works for you and your family. So one of the things he said, one of the top things that people are always confused about what they should use is bleach.
Right.
He said, because bleach is considered to be toxic, but when it's diluted, it happens to be one of the most valuable cleaning agents that's out there when you talk about, being stable and killing bacteria, and doesn't leave a residue because of how quickly it dries on the surface. So he said a lot of people think, well, it seems so toxic. He goes, but it's one of the simple and cheapest things that you can use
bleach
in your home.
Is cheap.
Yes, like 90 cents a bottle. Yes, seriously, it's under $1. He goes, and it's one of the most effective things you can use, but the key thing is making sure that you have to dilute it correctly.
Now, no one ever told me to dilute bleach. I've never...
You should always dilute bleach. Absolutely. He said it needs to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So we'll get back into this a bit about what's important, being green or being clean. It's the Maya Akai Show with Nikki Brayton. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I was cracking up. She was like, I heard y'all say, I was she can hear us. Because we did.
He said he turned it off, so I don't know where she's picking it up from.
Kilo listened. She's on iHeart. She was all like, wait.
So iHeart's working for her?
No. She was all like, okay, I'm confused. I thought the Gospel Awards was already. It's still from last week.
So that's a
she was all like, what she said? She said, you're talking about... She's like, I'm trying to call in. She's like, you talking about Juneteenth. Why are you talking about Juneteenth?
So that one finally dropped in. That's a late one, though. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, that's from last week.
So she was saying her sister was trying to listen via iHeart. So finally that podcast dropped in, but we're not on air.
We're not on air.
So it's still a podcast from Friday, it seems like, finally dropped in. So hopefully I'm off Wednesday, because Wednesday was missing before.
What's What's that? I don't know what that. I can't see.